In a roundabout way, God led me to Memphis, and when I got to Memphis, all the things I heard about Memphis and all of the different drug stories, and I was just going to come to Memphis and have a ball, but he led me to Calvary.
Mid-South Viewpoint, a Christian news and information feature of Bott Radio Network 640 AM, discussing the news, views, issues, and concerns that affect our community. Join us now for today's edition of Mid-South Viewpoint.
Well, we're very excited about our capital campaign, our campaign to build a new building. We have this new building, we're going through a plan development phase, and we've been having public hearings, and we're just excited that everybody in the community seems to be on board with us. We have no opposition to our plan development.
And let's talk about that if we can in a moment. Now, let's just remind our listening friends just where Calvary Rescue Mission is located, first of all.
Okay, we're in the Gaston Park area, which is close to 3rd and Crump. And Calvary has been located there for about 40 years. We're in a building that used to be First Assembly many years ago. And our current building was built in the mid to late 1920s. And our capacity is 46 men. You know, as you know, we take homeless men in every night. We feed them, we clothe them, we preach the gospel. And over the years, we've seen over 25,000 men pray to receive Christ. We've had over 500,000 overnight lodgings. We've served over 1 million meals. I always say we hadn't quite caught up with McDonald's yet, but we're getting there. Our new building that we're planning to build and have our campaign for, we will be able to take 108 men per night, so we'll over double our present capacity. The new building will also have a big vocational educational training room, which is something that we do not have room for at this time. So many wonderful people come down to Calvary and volunteer to help serve dinner, and our dining room is very small. It's very crowded, and it's hot in the summer, and so we're excited that our new dining room will be able to seat 120 or more. Some of the property that we obtained, you know, we originally were looking at property nearby the mission, but not adjacent to our present property. The city of Memphis sold us a lot that was equivalent to the size lot we already had, and they sold it to us for $1. And so at our celebration dinner last year, A.C. Wharton presented us with the property deed for that land, and we're very excited about that. And then other properties along Lucerne Place, which is just right next door to us, the Lord just made it possible for us to acquire. There was at least one other one of those that was donated, and then the rest of them, I mean, the Lord just provided, and we're very excited we have plenty of land, more than what we need to build this building that we're talking about.
He was a drunk, and God gloriously saved him and turned his wine into water, and he began going to Bible school, and we prayed about where God would have us to be. And we really felt this was where God wanted us to serve, to try to help men who had the same problem that he had. Of course, today the ministry is a lot more varied because you've got a lot of homeless men that are not necessarily drunks or on dope. They're without jobs, you know, and they have no place to go. So things have changed a whole lot from the time that we began as far as the type of people that we have there. Now, we had to pay $60 a month rent for the building there that we were renting next to J and Jesse's Lounge, between J and Jesse's and the VFW. We didn't have the $60, but we had a friend, Jerry Gray, who said, "Milton, I don't have $60, but I've got 60 friends that I know I can get $1 from," and that's how we got our first month's rent.
Wow. Talk about some of those early days and the expectations and the things that you saw God do.
It was really exciting because we were right there right on the street. The building was storefront right on the street, and we had people that would be on their way to the VFW. I know one night my daughter was about 4 or 5, and she handed a lady a tract as she started up the street. And she said, "Oh, how sweet, hon, thank you." And then she looked at it, and she threw it on the floor and stomped her feet, and she said, "You've just ruined a good evening." And she turned around and headed back to her car then, so at least we kept her from going to the VFW that night. But we had people that would be in J&. Jesse's. Milton had a PA system, and he had the speaker on the wall to the bar. And we have had people that have gotten up from the bar stools come in when we were singing gospel songs. Said that they reminded them of their grandmother who had prayed for them for years, and they just had to come in for services. You know, we had men come in and get saved, and then we've had people in the neighborhood, you know, that were just out, came in for services. It was really a blessing. From there, then we moved to the old London and Dudley Central Cumberland Presbyterian Church, which is where we got our beautiful stained glass windows that we now have in our current building. But that was our next step. And then when the urban renewal took that building, we got the building we're in right now for $1 from Holiday Inn.
Actually, I'm from Little Rock, and I grew up with good parents. My dad was a deacon. His father was a preacher, and so they raised me good. And came from a big family, 12 children. At the age of 16, I started smoking pot and doing all kinds of different stuff. And as I got grown, I made a bunch of bad choices, you know. I went probably 20-something years of using drugs and drinking. And before I came to Calvary, just before I left Little Rock, I found myself living underneath the overpass. In a roundabout way, God led me to Memphis. And when I got to Memphis, all the things I heard about Memphis and all the different drug stories, and I was just going to come to Memphis and have a ball, but he led me to Calvary. For some people like myself, you know, when you're drinking and using drugs all the time, and then you find out there's a whole world of people that's all they do. You know, maybe work a temp service job or just anything you can do to make money. And then you find out there's a whole world of people doing this. And unfortunately, it becomes a lifestyle, you know. And then you find out that, for me, I found some old friends I hadn't seen in a long time, and they said, "Well, we're going to show you where we live." And they were living underneath the overpass. And I don't know, it just becomes a lifestyle. You know, you get so detached that, I don't know, it almost seems normal because there's so many homeless people. But homelessness is not a normal thing. But it seems to be when you get out there and you find out it's a whole world of people. Well, as I say, I was raised by good parents, and when I lived underneath that bridge, I would come out from under that bridge sometime at night, and I just look into the sky, and I would say, if my mother knew I was here, she'd send one of my brothers or one of my sisters, somebody to pick me up. And for whatever reason, I just didn't do it, you know. And I've always left Little Rock and gone, lived in different cities and come back. And then in a roundabout way, when I made it to Memphis, and I can't really say that I just had enough of living on the street. All I can say is I made it to Calvary Rescue Mission.
Did you ever at any time fear for your life on the streets?
Not really. I mean, you know, it's of course when you when you sleeping under a bush or under a bridge, you don't sleep real good. You know, you kind of learn that everything moves you here, you know. So I kind of say that probably was fear. I heard about it from somebody sent me to Calvary Street Ministry. And when I got to Calvary Street Ministry, they said, "You should be looking for Calvary Rescue Mission." And of course, Calvary Street Ministry was downtown. So I made my way back up to Calvary Rescue Mission, and I checked in that night. I've been to a few missions, you know, but unfortunately, at most missions, even when they sing about God and when they pray and everything, the minute that's over, it's forgotten. In most missions that I've been to, the minute the preacher stops preaching and the singing stops, everything else starts right back. But when I got to Calvary, it just wasn't that way. You know, you went in and no profanity, place was clean, and you were treated like, you know, you ought to be treated. And you were told that this is the way we treat people and this is the way you have to, you know, do when you live here. My turning point actually came on a Tuesday night. Brother Perkins was preaching, and he said, if you ever had a relationship with God, God has not changed his mind or given up. You need to repent. Tell God I'm sorry and start over. And when I did that, I mean, I honestly did that. And, you know, you hear it so many times, but when I honestly did that, oh, my God. I mean, it was like from night to day. I mean, I lived in Hot Springs before, and I met a guy, Daryl Daves, and he taught me what it was really to be saved. You know, but he didn't tell me that you don't lose your salvation. Nobody told me that you get saved, you mess up, you really didn't blow it. You need to repent. And that was the turning point.
Once God saves you, you're saved eternally. You know, God's not an Indian giver. He doesn't give you salvation, then take it back away from you. And so I hope that helped Sammie to be rooted in the faith and knowing that. And Sammie has, you know, and I don't want to leave out his wife, Betty, but she is a wonderful singer. And so every Wednesday night at Calvary, Sammie preaches, and, well, except for one Wednesday, and then that's another friend of ours, Brother Keith. But most Wednesday nights, Sammie preaches, and Betty sings, and the guys just love them to death. Sammie also has discipled. It's neat because we discipled Sammie, and now he's discipling others. And so many of the men love him. They do that Wednesday nights at Calvary. Saturdays, they disciple men from Calvary. Sundays, Sammie does the Church Without Doors downtown, which is a fantastic ministry. So he has been very active with his faith, he and his wife Betty, and they've been a tremendous blessing to not only Calvary but a lot of others.
My wife is actually from Little Rock too, and we dated, and it had been 10 years since I seen Betty. And when I met Betty, my life was kind of real messed up, and she was so sweet, and I ran from her. And then when I got to Calvary, and God started my life anew, and I began to talk to God about a wife, and Betty came to mind. And I went home, and we met again, and it was my birthday, and she said, can I take you out to lunch? I said, yeah, sure. We went out to lunch. In the middle of lunch, she stopped eating. She had a knife in one hand, a fork in one hand, and she was staring at me. I was getting ready to run, and she said, I heard you got saved. She said, man, talking to you, looking at you, I can tell. So I prayed, and I said, God, if that's the wife for me, could you bring her to Memphis? And a little over a year later, we got married at Calvary.
I tell you what, it was just exciting to see what a blessing it has been for him to be fulfilled with a sweet wife that loves him and supports him, and then for them to be able to find a home, and they have their own house now, and him working full-time. It's just a joy to see what God has done in their lives.
Sammie at one time had an apartment downtown paid for, and yet he chose to stay at Calvary Rescue Mission and help me and help the staff there. I mean, he loved Calvary so much that he left that apartment sitting down there empty. And then not long after that, I was privileged to do his wedding. I got to marry him and Betty at Calvary Rescue Mission on July 7th, 11 years ago, right, Sammie?
Right, 2001.
I think it's the Downtowner magazine that puts this statement in almost every issue. They say, most homeless people are not panhandlers, and most panhandlers are not homeless. Exactly. And I think that by and large is a very true statement. And it's a confusing issue to a lot of people because a lot of people think of homeless people as people that come up to you and beg for money so that they may use for some nefarious activity such as drinking or drugging. But by and large, most homeless people do not panhandle. I've never seen anybody from Calvary Mission panhandling, and I'm downtown a lot, all over town. I've never seen that happen. I've seen people doing it, but not anybody from Calvary. So I think that's an important distinction that we need to make.
As far as Calvary, there's so many people that really have not known about us. And, I appreciate the opportunity today to be on the radio to let people know that we are there. We've been in existence for 46 and a half years in the city of Memphis, and there are a lot of people that are not aware of us.
I'm going to always try and be the voice of the client, to try to be able to see things the way the average guy is going to see it when he checks in Calvary. Because as Brother Bob was saying, homelessness it's a thing that when you're out there, you don't panhandle, because you know that people have this thing. It's like they see you coming and they know you're homeless. Especially when you don't know about places like Calvary to keep yourself clean and groomed. I mean, when you're on the street and you don't know about the missions, or God help you if you've been barred from all the missions, you have no place to change clothes and to keep yourself clean. And panhandling is not an option, because people will just literally walk the other way when they see you coming.
We are very excited about this dinner coming up, our Capital Campaign Celebration Dinner. As you said, it'll be Friday, September 7th. That's first Friday in September, 6:30 p.m. at Bellevue Baptist Church. And in addition to Joe Birch, Betty's granddaughter, Katie, is just such a sweet young lady, and she is going to be one of the singers that night, and we're just very excited about that. She's been singing at the Mission and in some churches, and so we're looking forward to that. Kayla Paget, who has sang at our dinner previously, just an incredible young lady. She has her own radio show. She's taught herself to speak Korean fluently. She was just recently the youngest person ever signed by Glory Records, and her credentials go on. And then we don't want to forget to mention Miss Erin Hatley from Collierville, Tennessee, who was Miss Tennessee 2011. She'll be singing the national anthem and then another song at the end of the program.
Well, Bob, tickets are available, and what's the best way to get tickets?
You can get tickets online at calvaryrescue.com. You can also call to get tickets at 901-774-3399. If you're on our mailing list, then obviously we send out invitations, and you can order the tickets at the Mission. We have some little return slips. Even if you can't be there at the dinner, we'd love for you to be there, and obviously that's our first choice. But if you can't and you'd like to help someone else, we try to have some complimentary tickets also for pastors. And at this point, we really don't have any, so we would like that kind of help for sure. One other thing, Byron, you can also get tickets. It would be kind of late, but you could still get them at our luncheon, which will be first Tuesday in September 4th. So that's just a few days before the dinner. But I did want to mention that because Don Russum, a wonderful Christian man, deacon at Bellevue Baptist Church, life group teacher, was in construction at Cornerstone Construction for 30-some-odd years. Just a wonderful, godly man. He's going to be our speaker at the luncheon September 4th, just a few days before the dinner. And if tickets we still have any, they'll be available at the luncheon. Running Pony is doing a fantastic video for us, and it will have its debut the night of the dinner. So you don't want to miss that. They are just such wonderful videographers, and we're looking forward to seeing this new video about Calvary Rescue Mission at the dinner.
Thanks for listening to Mid-South Viewpoint. If you'd like to join the conversation, you can email us. Our address is wcrv@botradionetwork.com. This has been Mid-South Viewpoint, another Christian news and information feature from Bot Radio Network 640 AM.